Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream scene. We have an awesome episode for you guys today, focusing on convention tips, especially for content creators. I'm joined here by my lovely co-host, TheHunterWild. How's it going, Hunter?
Hello, Lowco. I am doing incredibly well. And hello to all of those viewers out there in Twitchland. I'm really excited about today's show in particular. This is a subject. I feel like I get to say this a lot, which is really incredible. A subject I'm pretty passionate about because it's one of the places that a lot of us get to meet together in person when we spend 99% of our time online. And there are a lot of factors that go into and play into what we do. And that's what we're going to be handling today on the show with two incredible guests. I'm really excited to get their takes on convention tips and stuff. First, we are joined by Bluejay. Bluejay,
Yeah.
tell us about
I
yourself.
I was feeling really small, so I made myself a little bigger.
On the
Hi.
fly.
Yeah, I know. I was just like, wow, my head looks really little. But I'm Bluejay, and I am a full-time variety broadcaster. I mostly play video games and tabletop role-playing games. I am doing 3 tabletop shows a week right now on 3 different channels, and I'll be doing 4 starting this month, starting next week. So yeah, things are busy.
Real busy.
It's real good though. And yeah, that's me. So.
Now, what about conventions though? Have you?
Oh gosh, with conventions, yeah, I've been to every PAX, including Unplugged, for the last 3 years, except for Australia. I haven't been to PAX Australia.
So you've been
Every
to a few.
PAX in the US, including Unplugged, for the last 3 years. I've been to every TwitchCon, and I've been to a few smaller non-PAX cons, but some Comic Cons and stuff. But for the most part, it's been PAX. But that's a big deal, yeah.
Yeah. All right. And our second guest today, the fabulous bearded Ellohime. Give us a little bit about you.
Hi, is my see? I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna show like my face is, like really big. Like, hey everyone, how's it going?
Into it.
I'm
Oh,
super professional streamer Ellohime. Hi. Anywho, hi, I'm Ellohime. I do a variety show really absurdly early in the morning, like 4 a.m. Eastern time. Like I said, I play a variety of games. I've been doing it for about 5 years now, coming up on 5 years. And yeah, it's been a pretty crazy ride. So if you want to check out the broadcast, join me at 4 a.m. in the morning, or don't. It's up to you. Get your sleep. So as far as conventions are concerned, I mean, I've been going. Well, I mean, I was going to conventions before I started streaming, but they were mostly, but they were mostly it wasn't just gaming centric. It was gaming included. So it's stuff like Dragon Con or MegaCon, where it had like gaming, anime, comics, TV shows, like kind of everything. So
like general nerd stuff.
Yeah, just general nerd stuff. Kind of like your Comic Con, but on a lesser scale. And then when I started streaming, I started going to conventions, and I've been to, God, just about every convention in existence. But just recently this year, I decided I'm not going to go to any conventions because I'm tired. I'm an old man now. So you get to see old man after 4 years of convention traveling, and all the wisdom I can share with you today, all the tips and tricks. But yeah, basically, yeah, that's pretty much it. Just been going to conventions, both for pleasure and for business, and yeah, been at it a while now. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Hi, chat.
Conventions have become something, especially with TwitchCon now, are really important for networking and opportunities. And it's almost like when streaming becomes your job, it does become an important aspect. Until a certain point, I think, where it becomes less. But it's definitely like, you're definitely missing out if you never go to a convention.
There's like a quadratic equation of convention value, right?
Can you math this out for us, Bluejay?
Yeah, let me just do the math. There's
Get the
a
whiteboard
quadratic equation of like how valuable going to conventions is. It starts from when you're a tiny wee bab and you just go because you like video games and that's it. And then you get up to being like, you know, you're trying to grow your business and it's like the primo value time when you get your name out there and your face out there. And then after you've already done that, it's like, okay, this is really fucking expensive and I need to be working. So
Mhm.
I think
it
that
goes
is
down.
true.
That's
For
a
sure.
quadratic equation. Conventions.
Very
That's
well
the show.
illustrated.
I
There you
did it.
go. So I think like what we'll do is we'll start off with, you know, the pre-convention stuff, and go all the way through. And then if you guys have any questions, we encourage you to hold up to the end of the show. We'll spend like the last 20 minutes doing like a Q&A. So anything that pops into your head that you want to ask us, just save that for the end. But yeah, so let's start with like convention preparation. What goes into getting ready for a convention, and when should you start thinking about your upcoming convention?
Well, like, okay, so what I do is I tell Cora that the convention is coming up in a couple of days, and then I expect her to pack for me and do everything that she's supposed to do within those 2 days. I don't know how anyone else
So pretty much
does
what all of
this.
us do.
Yeah, just
Can
find
we-
someone else to do all the work for us, and then
Can
that's
we
how
do
I
a
prepare.
rollback?
That's how I prepare.
I think before we address the question of how to prepare for conventions, we should address whether or not you should go.
Okay, yeah.
Making
Sure.
that
Yeah,
decision is
that's-
a
yeah.
really
Whether or
important
not you even
first
attend.
step. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
conventions are really expensive, and especially for people who are, because we're addressing people who want to go for business reasons, not necessarily just for fun, right?
Right.
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're going to a convention, if you're thinking about going to conventions for getting your name out there and growing your business, there's a point at which the value for money, like also equation, you gotta consider how much you're putting in and how much you may or may not get out. I think that honestly, if you're not partnered yet, if you're not pulling in those like what is it on the Twitch achievements, like 75 average viewers?
I think it's 75.
It's really, really hard. Like there are so many people at every convention. Like if you don't have an ability to like put that value, if you can't really sell yourself, then like it's gonna be very hard to find the value in the conventions. Because they're expensive. It's like $1,000 or more to go to a convention. That's a lot of money that you could be putting into your stream and the quality of your stream.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely true. That's a very
yeah.
fair point.
So if you haven't already got like a good PC setup, you're like doing it on a schedule. It depends on what you do for work. Like you have to take time off of your other job to like go to a convention. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of things that you have to consider before you even plan to go to conventions. So I would definitely say like that's the first step is making an educated decision about whether or not you're going to get what you want to get out of going to a convention.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's absolutely true.
It's in like a strictly business sense, it's not much
Yes.
different than if you were to put up a booth, right? Like it's
Sure.
kind of the same thing. Like in a like I said, in a strictly business sense, is what's your product? You know, like what is your product? If you're looking at your stream as like your product, like this is what I have to bring to the table. Is that a strong enough product to really network? Is it a strong enough product to show people, to be proud of, to get people to be inspired or believe in what you're doing, you know? And even if there's like a twinkle there, it might be worth it, but just be realistic about what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve, and don't go in thinking that you're going to necessarily get value out of it. My biggest tip is the first time you go to a convention, especially a convention game centric, is like just go there because you want to go there as a fan and enjoy the convention.
Yeah.
The very first time, the networking stuff, if you can fit it in, great. But just know that the money you're going to spend is going to be money spent in an enjoyable way. You're going to get something out of it, either entertainment or time with friends or something like that. Don't go strictly for business if you're just starting out, because you might be very disappointed and you might end up spending a lot of money, like Bluejay said. But yeah,
and that disappointment in turn influences it stays with you.
It'll
that
affect your
influences your
business.
decisions and your engagements in future conventions, and that also, that disappointment, I've seen this happen several times, can taint your perspective of Twitch itself. When you're involved in on the, you know, on the production side, the content generation side, that's the kind of thing that can taint your perspective on how other people treat you and how interactive the community can be because of one time that you went, and you went with misshaped or misguided intentions that didn't really match up with what was possible. And you came out of that feeling deflated and defeated and disenchanted, when it might have just been a matter of like how you approached it, like you were saying.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And down $1,000 or $2,000.
Yeah,
Right.
Like, you know, like if you're
And that's the
this
thing to
together.
consider is like someone for one person $1,000 isn't the same amount like percentage wise of their income as another person.
Mhm.
So like if you can spend $1,000 for a vacation and just go because you want to experience it, that is great.
And it can
Do
be
it.
worth that.
Conventions
Yeah.
are so fun. Like
Yeah.
as a person who
Mhm.
likes nerd shit, like conventions are great unless you're really socially anxious, and then like consider that
yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
But like for other people where that's a very big expense, like I don't want to go forward into this show without expressing that like this is something you really need to think about before you spend that much money, you know.
For sure. And also, like, you know, one of the benefits about going with the intention of just having fun is sometimes, like, the best experiences, like, business-wise or stream-wise, can just happen by accident. I think we'll talk a lot about that when we talk about, like, parties and the things that happen after the show floor, where, you know, a lot of these chance encounters can really be, like, the best networking that you've done, and you didn't go into it with a business sense. And I think having that kind of, like, naive, like, perspective going into convention for the first time, like, if you just go in for your first time with a business sense, then you may make a lot of mistakes trying to be too businessy, and it could put a lot of people off. Whereas if
I
you go for
completely
fun
agree.
and then just kind of see what happens, like, you know, the people that have stuck with me the most in my mind who I've met are the people that are just there, like, having fun, come up to me, start talking to me, and then, like, oh, here's my card at the end of the conversation. But they're not like, hello, I am a streamer with X followers. Nice to meet your acquaintance. Like, so,
Unless there's like $1,000 bill on the other side of that, business is forgettable. It's so forgettable.
yeah.
But social interaction is not. When
Mhm.
you connect with somebody, that stays with you, and you stay with them as well. And you have a story to tell. Like before the show, I was recounting a story of hanging out with Ellohime at St. Jude Play Live. At one point, like that was a very memorable experience. It had nothing to do with business. These are stories that stick with you. And I think totally to Lowco and Bluejay's point, if you prioritize, because Twitch is inherently social and business at the same time, it's just those go hand in hand. If you prioritize the social quality and make sure that you're trying to have a good time and allow other people to have a good time as well, then you can allow the business to flow secondarily, and then something can come of that later. It's like planting seeds, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then let's get into, like, the convention preparation, I should say.
The prep proper.
Yeah, I think it's already been mentioned in terms of like business cards. The value there is it's kind of like putting a bookmark in a book you're reading. When you have a business card and you can like bookmark the end of your conversation with somebody, it makes it just that much easier for them to get that reminder. A lot of people, especially gaming companies and peripherals companies, will get a ton of business cards. So if you don't have one, the chances that they're going to be able to recall where to find you are pretty slim, because they're meeting hundreds of people over the weekends, hundreds if not thousands. So having that card, having that reminder for when they go home and take everything out of their suitcase, like, that is very important. And I think Lowco is saying give it 3 weeks for printing, will be safe, like on the hopefully.
Yeah.
And that's just the printing, right? Because you gotta design that bad boy
Design
in
it.
advance and throw it at some other people. And please do this. Please don't think that you've got the most baller business card without checking with at least 3 other people. Like, send it over to people who know what they're looking at. And even maybe people who don't, just your mom. My mom's a great sounding board for a lot of this kind of stuff. If it doesn't make sense to other people, or they're like, oh, you might want to, shift this around, or like, I've never seen that before and I don't think it sells, whatever it happens to be,
Or
you need
you
to get that
spelled
some
your
time for feedback.
username wrong.
Yeah, honestly,
jeez.
yes, yes. I have oftentimes, and this has been, I was born with this name, and I still type Hutner all the time, like the T before the N. It's proofreading is valuable.
I would say in terms of like before convention stuff, with PAXs at least, and I know with some Comic Cons and probably other conventions, you can now sign up to get badges as a content creator. It used to be media, but now there's a specific badge for content creators. This not only gets you a free badge, which is good for people who are especially trying to like save a little bit of money, but when you sign up for a content creator badge, you also get put on a list where all of the game developers and people that are going to the convention have your email, and will send you out emails to be able to make appointments with businesses that are going to the convention. It gets really annoying.
There's a lot of emails.
There's a lot of emails, but if you're interested in finding new games that you might be interested in, games that might fit your community, they're reaching out to you. And that is very handy. So as horribly spammed as my inbox is, I found a few games that look really fun to play. So
especially as like a smaller content creator, or if you're going for your first time and you don't know, like, you don't really have connections yet, you're not really sure like who to even like, who's gonna be there. Like getting those emails is like, I'd rather get too many emails than no emails, right? Like it's extra information.
Can I backtrack for a second here?
Yeah,
sorry,
absolutely.
I want to go back to business cards real quick, because I had a few things about business cards that I want to touch on. First of all, business cards are a great idea. I would never tell you otherwise. One thing I would mention about business cards is don't make yours too crazy or too flashy. I know it can sometimes seem like a competition who can come up with the coolest business cards, but honestly, what I found is less is more. And you'll notice that like if you ever run into somebody from the government or in an agency or whatever, it's always just plain as hell. I mean, it has the little emblem, it has the information, and it's like, United States government, blah, 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 blah. There's a reason for that, because it's just simple and it's short. Nobody wants that. Like, I like business cards that I pick up and they have like flames on them and everything. Yeah, okay, cool. But like,
it actually catches on fire.
Yeah, because you want to catch the person's eye, right? Yeah, exactly. Like it electrocutes you when you pull it out, like that gum, But my thing is that sometimes you can make your card so convoluted and so complicated that the information that you're trying to convey doesn't even get across. So try not to go too big with it and just be smart and practical. Now, the other thing I would offer you is, I think you should always have business cards on you. But what I found for me personally is that business cards aren't that effective when it comes to trying to touch base with somebody for the first time. And what I have adapted, and I wouldn't use this every time, but just kind of feel out what's going on, because some people's Twitters are personal and not necessarily business. But what I would do is ask that person to follow you on Twitter at the end of the conversation, instead of going into business cards. Because business cards to me, and again, this is just personally, can seem so networky and can seem so businessy that it can kind of put a weird, bitter twist to what was a organic and fun conversation, So like we're hitting it off and we're talking, we're chatting, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, and here's my business card, because the only reason I'm talking to you is because I want to get ahead in my career. That kind of thing. I've always kind of kept that. That's not always the perception, but what I'm saying is that I've always kept that in my back pocket, kind of thinking about it. How can I make this more organic? How can I make this seem like things are going to flow naturally more? And to me, going to Twitter and going, hey, do you have a Twitter? Do you mind if I follow you on Twitter? And they go, oh, of course you can follow me on Twitter. I'm getting a follow on Twitter. This guy streams on Twitch. It's awesome for my game. It's awesome for, my stream. It's awesome for whatever I'm doing if I'm trying to build social media, right? but you ask them to follow you back as well. You don't even usually have to ask that. Usually they'll just go like, I'll toss a follow back. Boom.
They'll pull out their phone in the moment, and you can see
in the
that
moment
happening.
they'll do it, and they'll just pull it out. And then you've got a direct line of communication with this person anytime you want. Send them a little message. Hey, this is so and so. I just met you, at TwitchCon. Blah 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 blah. Just want to touch base. And I found that is way better than giving them your business card or getting their business card and then either expecting yourself or them to send an email.
Yeah.
Sure, that happens.
That's
it happens.
totally true. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
happens. Sure, it does. But my thing is like, it's so much more immediate, so much easier, and it benefits both people
fluid.
immediately just to go right into Twitter and go, hey, let's just go ahead and follow each other. That's my thing. That's just a tip. It doesn't work for everybody. That's just found worked for me.
I definitely
think,
agree that creates more of a casual, fluid engagement. That being said, there are a lot of people who do ask for business cards, so just having them is also good. Like both ways.
I think like the reason for business cards, at least for me, is like to get their Twitter and to do that exchange. Like I'm not doing it because I'm like expecting them to email me, but I'm like, okay, like you'll find me. This is where you can find my Twitter because. At conventions, either your battery's low or you don't have a signal like 90% of the time. So
true too.
what I like to do is it's like I gather all the business cards and then I'll go through like on the plane ride and go through and find all their Twitters and look everybody up that way.
See, that's a smart
move.
move.
So it's like the same. It's like I'm getting the same thing accomplished, just like
at an
easier time.
Okay, so this was I wanted to ask then. How do you guys handle your business cards that you receive? And how do you think that other people should and do with that?
They'll go in my bag and I never see them again.
Yeah, that's mine.
I go through them all. Like I'll add like people on Twitter, and then if I'll when I'm going through them, I'll sit at my computer. Anybody that I wanted to reach out to via email, that's when I do that. So I'll go through all my things, do my emails, and then I just throw them out after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've started doing I keep the ones where I'm like, okay, I might need this for later. Like I've got a bunch of emails for people at Twitch, a bunch of like different companies that I have or haven't worked with. I just kept because like what if they put out a game that later I'm like, oh shit, and I just didn't I don't have like a contacts list really because I'm just horrible. But I also really like that little file cabinet.
I think that's a great idea.
That's pretty cute. I like that.
Yeah. When I get a card from like a streamer, then I'll just follow them and toss it.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to keep that unless it's
you don't need the card, you need the connection.
Unless it's a really cool business card.
Yeah.
Like if it's like I think I still have yours, Hunter, because it was the wood one.
It's a pretty cool business card.
It's a pretty good business card. Yeah. So unless it's really cool, then I'll keep it because it's great. But otherwise, I'll get the information that I wanted from it and then toss it. And when we're talking about business cards, don't just be the person that leaves a bunch of your business cards on tables around the convention center because that's no.
Just taking them in random people's pockets as they pass along.
People do that. They leave them on the escalators. They just. Like, I found your business card on the floor in the convention center, and then I found. Why would that? No, just don't.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I don't want to work with you because you're a litter bug.
Yeah. Right.
Like, how about that? How about immediately the first thing I know about you is you give zero shits for the people who have to clean up after you.
Yeah, that's the one tier. You can see it dripping down my face from the litter.
Yeah, it's I've got a drawer next to my bed that I typically just kind of dump every business card I have into. I probably have all of your business cards sitting in there right now from whatever year I got them. And I'm not really a business card kind of person. Like I'm not going to go and go like, oh, the business, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm more about organic relationships. I'm more about meeting people and just having that kind of work into its own thing. Yeah. And business cards always, like I said, I'm never going to say don't have business cards on you. I'm never going to say they're not helpful. I'm never going to say that shit. Just for me personally, I don't typically use them. And I honestly just hold on to a stack of them just to avoid embarrassment if somebody asks me for one.
If somebody asks you, right.
Yeah. But even then, even if somebody asks me and I don't have why don't we just jump on Twitter real quick and we'll just do it that way, blah, 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 again. So, but anyways, circles.
So what other things can streamers do to prepare for a convention? Like, how do you go about making appointments, or do you make appointments for
in advance,
games and companies?
I would say anything that you are really interested in, you need to hard knuckle pursue months in advance. As a Twitch partner, there have been several occasions where I've been like, yo, meet and greet. Yo, Twitch, meet and greet. Hello. At the very least, like I get information about what I need to do to get to that point. And the earlier you go after that information, the more likely you're going to be able to actually get what you want. When it comes to game developers and businesses like that, I think reaching out earlier than a month in advance, they might be planning for the last convention still. So a month in advance is probably like way like the earliest point you'd want to, because these people are always doing stuff. At least the peripherals and game developers that I've worked with. So a month in advance at the earliest, they might not have their appointment schedule set up yet, but at the very least, like 3 to 2 weeks before, reaching out to any businesses that you're like, okay, you're coming out with this game. I really want to play it. I know that you're going to have a booth. Can I talk to you? Can I get a demo? Like,
yeah.
And then establish that relationship that you are interested and engaged with their content before it's released. That way you can respond to them at, like a few weeks, a month before game release, and is like, yo, we talked at this convention. I really, really liked playing your game. Any chances you're going to do an early release? And you can establish that relationship at a convention in person, where it's easier to establish face-to-face relationships than it is online. And that way you can be like, remember me? We had a conversation. I'm an actual person. I sold you on my business, and now I want the return from that, you know? Let's play this game. Like, let's do it. That I would say that's one of the reasons why the content creator badges and those emails are valuable, because there might be games that you don't know were coming out that you can learn about, especially indie games. In advance. And then you can book those appointments and you can go and see those booths, or at least get an idea of what you want to check out based on the people that are like engaging with you. And yeah, there's been a lot of way too many emails, but there've definitely been like 3 or 4 games where I'm just like, oh, that actually looks really cool. That looks like something I would play. So.
And keep an eye on Twitter too, like the hashtag PAX East hashtag. That was redundant.
Hashtag PAX.
So the one was the term.
How do you Twitter again?
Actually, the symbol.
Yeah, no, that makes sense if you're like reading it. Yeah, hashtag PAX East. Hashtag.
Keep an eye on that as well, because like you'll find like companies and people that are tweeting under that hashtag to, you know, book appointments and stuff. And you know, there's definitely a lot more leeway for like getting access to an appointment versus like, I think like, you know, a AAA title launch at the last minute, you know, like
if you use TweetDeck, I believe you can set up an independent column for specific hashtags. So if you're leading up to an event and you use TweetDeck, you should just be able to open one up and have it, even if you put it all the way on the far side and it's like out of your browser, like I've got, you know, 10,000 different browser windows up at one time across like 9 million monitors. You can still always just scroll over and just update yourself on who's using the hashtag and whether or not that stuff's relevant. And it can be a lot easier to manage something like that than it can be for me, emails. I'm terrible at emails. I don't know how to do things. I don't know how to read them properly. So looking through Twitter, a timeline like that, a feed, can be a lot easier. It's a good point.
And when we're talking about that, like on the other end of things, when you're trying to connect with other content creators, knowing who's going to be at the convention, even like as a friends, like for friends, like if you notice these are the people that you follow that are tweeting about going to PAX East, and you're like, oh my God, Lowco, I haven't seen Lowco in like 4 months. I want to get in touch with her before she's cemented her schedule and be like, let's have dinner. Let's make sure that we have some time where we can actually spend time together if that's something that you want to do at a convention. Because I feel like my way of doing conventions has kind of changed over the years, where when I first started going to conventions, I wanted to meet as many people as possible. And now I'm more looking forward to getting to spend time with the people that are farther away from me, that I really care about and want to be able to spend that time with, because we're in the same place for a weekend. So if you want to spend time with people, booking time with them when you know they're going ahead of time is also something you want to do earlier, because everyone's working. And to make sure that you actually commit to time together earlier is better for that as well.
Yeah, very true. Anything else pre-PAX or pre-convention that you guys want to talk about?
Yeah, like just some practical stuff, like bring hand sanitizer.
Tons.
Yes.
Like
Tons.
I'm sorry, these are like really practical things, but here's the thing is that people get sick at conventions every year easily. In fact, if you're considered lucky if you don't get the PAX pox as it is, okay? So yeah, make sure that you're washing your hands a ton, but even before then, be proactive about it and bring your own hand sanitizer for sure. At the very least, if not just like hand wipes them on cue. Excited to die on me. There we go. Even if it's just like you know, I don't know. It just whatever you can get your hands on, honestly, just keep yourself clean. Every handshake, every hug, every time that you can, just wash your fucking hands. Because if you don't, you're gonna make everybody sick. You're gonna get you sick. So now, not only did you take a weekend to go to a convention away from your stream, but now the next week, an expensive weekend, and then another week, you're gonna be sick and you're gonna be miserable. So that, and also, I would suggest, and this is kind of weird coming from me because I'm like the least, you know, likely person to do this. Pack something that's nice. Pack like nice shoes, like a nice outfit, just in case something pops up where you have to go to something a little bit nicer. Yeah, you never know what you're invited to, and you don't want to show up in jeans and sandals at like a nice event.
That's a bad impression. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Well, it's not necessarily a bad
way.
impression. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not necessarily a bad impression, but I would say that there are some places that absolutely, no matter how badass you think you are, will not let you in if you're not wearing shoes. So, yeah, just bring those along. I'm a big fan. I know that sounds weird. I know that sounds weird, but I wear sandals everywhere. Like I'm a big sandal guy. Like I wear sandals everywhere. You'll almost never see me not in sandals. And there's been places where like we were in Vegas one time and we were with a bunch of Amazon execs and they wanted to go party in this VIP club in Vegas, right? Which is insane. And we get there and there's like, you know, like Tony Hawk is there and some like MMA fighters are there and like it's a crazy big party.
Shoes.
All with closed-toe shoes, and all I had was sandals. So I actually had to like run somewhere just to buy some fucking shoes, just to throw them on my feet, just to get into the place. You know, so that's one example of many. But yeah, just keep something nice. You know, closed-toe shoes. You know, if you want a polo shirt or a button-down shirt, or you know, some khakis, whatever, some slacks.
Yeah,
just
and
something
weather-appropriate clothes too.
Yeah.
Like
and
it's gonna be cold in Boston. Like.
Yeah, that's also true.
Paying
Do research on your weather.
Yeah,
that's what you definitely should do in advance is research the weather, research the climate, for the regular season, like whatever they normally expect there, and then also look at what it's going to be like, you know, 2 days in advance. Hopefully, you're packing by 2 days in advance and not the night before.
It was snowing in Boston last year. I wonder if it's going to snow this year.
I think it's snowing today in Boston.
Freezing.
Yeah, there's another weather system moving in. So research on the weather. That's an easy one that can be a huge game changer. I'm sure there are tons of people in the chat who could be like, yeah, I had a rough time in Boston that one year because I didn't look at the weather in advance.
Oh, that one year I actually managed to get a room at the hotel that was connected to the convention center, so I didn't have to go outside.
Lucked out. Yeah, that's awesome.
So
or smarted out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just another practical thing real quick too, and this I feel like I shouldn't have to say anything, but I do because there's so many people that don't keep up with their hygiene. But bring deodorant, bring things to brush your teeth. Actually, I would suggest, okay, so my management group started doing this like the very first year I started working with them, and I thought they were fucking brilliant for it. Excuse my language. They gave me like a little baggie, right? And the little baggie had two had some ibuprofen in there, and it had like a dust or like a lint roller. It had gum. It had like minty like toothpicks. It had like hand wipes, just a little thing that just keeps you going throughout the day, because you're likely going to be walking around the convention center. You're going to be getting sweaty. You're going to eat things. You're going to be immersed in people and talking constantly. Your mouth's going to get dry. It's going to get nasty. Things are going to get disgusting. Just to keep up with yourself, every now and then pop in a piece of gum if you're talking.
I think
to
gum is a
people
game
lot.
changer.
Yeah.
Gum is a game changer. Yeah,
It's like the one time out of the year when you're talking with other people face to face, you might not be directly aware of how your mouth smells 8 hours into the day.
Better to be like safe than sorry too. Like if you're not sure, just
absolutely
pop a mint gum or something.
Yeah, and you just drank a beer, pop some gum, or had a couple of drinks or something.
Oh, for sure. And when we're talking about drinks, I would say make sure when you're going to conventions, don't share drinks with people. We were talking about not getting sick. So like when it comes down to like the same thing as hand sanitizer, don't share drinks with people. Make sure that you get sleep. Because like you want to go so hard, but you will get sick if you don't sleep. Your body can only take so much. Most of us are very sedentary. We sit at our computers all day. So if you go really hard and you don't sleep and you're exposed to way more germs than you normally are, you're gonna get sick. So
and also you're eating trash food usually, right? So it's like you're out of control with your diet, you're out of control with your sleep, you're drinking far less water, so your homeostasis, your metabolism's down, your immune system's tanking for all these reasons at the same time, that you're suddenly exposed to tons of germs. Everything's assaulting you. You really want to maximize all that stuff.
And we're going at this from the perspective of people who are trying to work and continue to work after. If you're just going to see your friends, like do whatever, don't sleep. I don't care, because it doesn't matter if you're not going to work. There's a different set of equations. Nobody wants to get sick, but like honestly, maybe you don't care. I care. So if you're doing the I'm not sleeping, I'm sharing everyone's drink, please stay 5 feet away from me.
Well, that's the other thing. Yeah.
I mean, and the whole like
you're a disease vector at that point.
Yeah.
The whole sleep thing also ties into like, planning your schedule ahead of time. If you are someone that stays up late, either because you just like, you just tend to stay up late, or you like the party or something, schedule. Don't make appointments for like 9 or 10 a.m. the next day. Like, do your appointments at 2 o'clock or later or something. Like, know yourself, because you don't want to miss appointments. That is like the worst thing that you can do, because you're either too tired or too hungover to
or waste your time and their time because you are barely cognizant. Like, I know that I'm a trash fire when I wake up in the morning. I have to have time to acclimate to being alive again. I have to get a little bit of coffee in me. And if I'm meeting somebody 10 minutes after I wake up, I've had no food, I've had no water, I've had no time to, just get my brain in order. And I'm going to be wasting their time. It's a very fair point.
Oh, and when you're considering,
here's an idea. Oh, so good.
No, sorry. When you're considering this time management, make sure that you keep in mind time zones.
Yeah, definitely.
Because that's another factor for sure. Go ahead, Ellohime. That was the only.
I was just gonna say, like, and this might seem like a crazy idea to some people, but maybe just don't drink. Like, because here's the thing, though, and this again goes in line with: are you there for business? Are you there for pleasure? I'm going to go ahead and assume that the people who are listening to the show have more of a business sense about them than a pleasure sense when we're going to conventions. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it's okay to not drink, or if you do drink, have very little. There's something to say about the camaraderie of having a drink with somebody, right? And the kind of good feels and bonding you can have from that, sure. But when your drinking is making you sloppy around people you want to impress, especially when it comes to early morning, the next morning you're not able to function and you're missing things, makes you look unprofessional. It makes it does way worse for you than good. So if you're going in there, like I said, have a drink socially, but maybe consider not pounding back every fucking drink put in front of you, because you're going to act a fool and the people that you want to impress are going to
stay. I can definitely speak to that personally too. Having been to 3 years of conventions completely sober, the meeting somebody for the first time when they're like 17 sheets into the wind, that's a judgment that's hard for me, even when I have known them otherwise. That's hard for me to forget. It naturally sticks when I'm sober and I can see the behaviors clearly, as opposed to judging them in a different way because I've also had alcohol. You don't know who you're going to run into, and you don't know their mental state. It is ideal to keep yourself as cognizant and aware and clean in your mentality as you can. And you know yourself. You know how much you can handle. You know where that line is. Just try and manage that a little bit would be my advice.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's like for me, I just started antidepressants, so I actually can't drink with them. So it's like, don't feel peer pressured, because even if your perception is that everyone there is having a drink and you ought to too, there's a lot of ways to like have a drink in your hand and not be drinking. And a lot of people, even if you don't like see them, because the people who are drunk are louder, there are a lot of people who aren't. And so like get yourself, a soda water and some lime, or like a cranberry and soda water. It looks like a drink. It's like, if it makes you feel more comfortable to have like a Shirley Temple, something in your hand, so that you still feel like part of the group and you're still having a beverage and you're not just like
a virgin mixed drink too. What do you call it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So
cocktail, virgin cocktail.
Like one of the bars near me has like an apple sage ginger soda, and it's the best thing ever. So there are definitely options if you don't want to drink but you still want to be drinking. Mocktails, mocktails are the thing. Yeah.
There are caveats. Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. My bad.
No, that was it.
I was gonna say, like, there are caveats to these rules, like almost always, right? So there is a time when you need to get shit faced, right? When Emmett walks up to you and says, "Hey, come back to my private hotel and we have a party back here. We're all gonna get shit faced." Sure, go for it, because like, it's fucking Emmett, right? He's at the top. I mean, there's times when you want to go and party and get to know these people, because the bonding experience sometimes is the partying.
Sure.
But again, these are just keeping your mind open. Don't always like limit yourself to these rules. Like
there's a context.
Yes, you got
be a full human being. You can decide these things.
Yeah.
Yes. And the thing is to know, again, what Hunter said, kind of echo that, your own natural rhythm, understanding what you can drink, understanding the context of the situation in the room. Just be at your best mentally, and when the time comes to get shit-faced and go crazy with a bunch of fucking guys that you want to have fun with, go for it and have fun and build that kind of bonding and everything safely. But yeah, for the most part, you definitely want to keep your wits about you.
Well,
so
and this
just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This comes down to making plans, where like if you make a plan and they're like, we're gonna go get shit-faced, and you're trying not to drink, you might be super uncomfortable. So like, be smart, know what your plans are, know what your limits are. And if someone says like, dude, you got to come to this party, all these cool people are going to be there, we're going to get shit-faced, and you want to hang out with cool people, but you're not comfortable with getting shit-faced, maybe just opt out of that situation, because you don't want to be awkward and sober, wishing that you could get in better with the people that you want to get in better with, but you don't want to drink.
Like, no, go shit-faced. Go get shit-faced.
So how much should you plan your stuff out?
Like, you have to plan ahead.
So speaking more broadly too, how much should you plan? How intense should you, like, how rigid is your schedule going to be? Does that vary by person? Do you think that there's like more of a universal thing?
It's definitely by person. Yeah.
I think it definitely varies by person. Here's my philosophy on it. And again, this is very personal. Everybody's on different levels doing different things. But for me, the only time I make a solid plan with somebody is if it's with like a client or a sponsor or a game company or something that I definitely want to do. Like, that's the only time. Yeah, lock the time in. Like, I am going to be here at 7:00 for dinner, no matter what, right? But
we lost you.
Sorry. I only make a couple of these plans every convention. Like, maybe I'll have one or two. Like, this is what I'm doing at this time, no matter what. Because at a certain level, you start getting into if you don't leave yourself flexible, you end up biting yourself in the ass when you're not able to be able to drop plans and be able to make new plans and be able to go here, go there, be at this dinner, that dinner. Like the last thing you want is to say, oh yeah, I'm going to meet this indie game developer at, 3:00 today. And I've set that, whatever. And so, and then like somebody else, maybe a potential sponsor says, hey, can we meet at 3? We're talking about trying to play somebody's game early, which you can talk to them at any point. You can send them messages on Twitter, you can do whatever, and then losing an opportunity to maybe have funding for a year or two.
Exactly, a long-term,
So again, if you're like, it's great to have a plan and to have a plan set up, great, but just understand the value of being flexible as well, and being able to work in the moment and meeting people and setting things up on the fly.
Oh yeah, and that definitely varies person to person. Like there are some people that work better inside of their schedule. I know for me personally, there's a lot of anxiety that comes with like I'm going to a convention with my partner who has like 5 panels they're doing, and they're like pretty scheduled out for the day, and I'm just like I've got absolutely nothing to do, and so that can be like a little like moment of like anxiety for me where I feel like I'm not doing my job because I don't have plans. So just putting something in place kind of like makes me feel a little bit better, a little bit like that's for me. Like I like having something that way I feel like I'm actually gonna do my job and not just like sit there feeling sorry for myself the whole time because I just like. But for some other people, it can be like the freeing thing is not having that schedule is because a lot of times, especially before you have connections with companies, there might be a moment where, and this has happened to me when I went to E3, I ran into somebody, they were going to a meeting and they were like, hey, just come along. Like we can talk while we're there. And I ended up getting a contact with Ubisoft that I hadn't had before because I just ran into somebody and I had free time. So that's definitely valuable to have that time to be able to do those things that you can't expect and you can't plan for. So yes, Ellohime, like that's 100% on the nose, right? But also like a lot of the times I just get like really like, oh, I have to have something that I'm doing or else I'm not doing my job. Why am I going here if I don't have plans,
What I've done is like what I'm starting to do is like it's 2 out of the 3 days of the convention I'll like be like super booked. For me, my focus now going to conventions is doing like more like public appearances and stuff, like doing like panels and kind of like branching out from my comfort zone, so trying to do like on stage stuff and stuff like that. So, I try to make myself super busy, like maybe 2 out of the 3 days. And that 3rd day I know is going to be, not as scheduled, kind of open because I know I'm going to be really tired by the last day. And I've definitely booked stuff on day 3s where I'm like, I can't even talk. I'm like, I don't want to get out of bed. So I try to like give myself that last day to just relax, enjoy the convention, take my time, and understand my limits.
I think that also preps you for getting back into streaming too, right? Because like if you're going hard the entire time, some of us more than others get back and we're like, I gotta take another couple of days off, even if you're not sick, because your voice is gone, you're just weary, you're weathered, you're not gonna put on a good show.
Yeah, so there's 4 different ways of doing things just right here at this table. So definitely like going to a convention, like Ellohime was saying, just to figure out conventions, how you like it, like going for fun to start off with will help you to cement all of these things about how you do conventions.
Before it matters significantly, right?
Exactly.
Before every convention actually matters.
You can figure out the first time when you're feeling it out, how hard you're going to feel like partying, like how much sleep you might get, how much sleep you need, like versus how much you want. That was a hard lesson for me, was sleep. Yeah. I've always been like, I'll be the person that's like, oh, it's midnight. All right, goodbye. I go to sleep. Everyone else is just like, it's 2 a.m. Let's go to Denny's. And I'm like, I am so
And then I see them the next day and I'm like, hey guys. And they're like, oh, it's like face peeling off, And
that's just me because I know that a lot of networking and social stuff happens after the convention at those 2 a.m. Denny's things. I recognize that. And I've chosen personally to sacrifice that because I feel better. I feel more like myself when I get some sleep. I get real tired, real hangry.
Yeah.
I know what I need, and what I need is to make sure that like I'm taking care of my body, because like coming back from that is really hard for me personally. But that's just something that you kind of have to feel out for yourself, because this is like a week-long party, a weekend-long party, and it can be really like different for different people. Your body will tell you what it needs.
Yeah, for sure. So
It feels like we're kind of like at the in convention stuff. We kind of moved past the
yeah.
pre-convention stuff.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to get into talking about like how you talk to people on the floor. Like, how should you do an introduction? How do these things go? Because this is really tough for someone who's never done it before. Like, how do you go
Absolutely.
and talk to a professional in the industry and introduce yourself?
It's tough for even for people who have done it before.
That's also true.
I think that it gets harder almost as years go by, in terms of like, hi, I'm Bluejay. I'm a full-time content creator on Twitch, partnered streamer, broadcaster, influencer. Like there's 17 words that you could use. Just introducing yourself with like that one sentence. And it used to be like, oh, you're a partnered streamer? Like, okay, like I can already get a gauge for kind of like a range that your influence would be in. But now it's like sometimes people are just like, I don't fucking care. Like I get there's 20,000 of you. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
right. There's a line of partnered streamers right behind you too.
Yeah. So it's changed, like in terms of you want to be able to succinctly say why they should give you their time. They have people coming at them every second of the day during conventions, and you need to be able to say in a sentence like, I am worth these 5 minutes. And so it's hard. And I feel like the best way is like, if you're going to, and this is a professional setting, this isn't introducing yourself to other streamers, let's be real. Like,
Or to viewers.
yeah, that's
potential viewers.
They're very
I was
different
thinking like the elevator
situations.
pitch would be different than when you're on the floor talking to a potential business partner than when you get a raid in and you're introducing yourself. You're like, hi, I'm so and so. I do this on Twitch. Your structure's different and the content of your description is different. How do you decide? Because really, this is something that you have to decide in advance. It's something that you organize, hopefully not in the moment of how you're
Especially
going
if
to
you
introduce
have,
yourself.
if you have, like, if you haven't been to a convention before, if you're a little anxious, like just having an idea of what you're going to say will just help you beforehand. And if you're someone who's really outgoing and already great with this stuff, like maybe you don't need to think about it as
Presumably
much.
you've got that, yeah.
Yeah. But I think the first thing to do is like before you even do it, make sure that you have your deodorant on. Make sure that you like are washed and clean and you don't smell like yesterday's beer. Because like that's gonna be your first impression. And you want to make sure that you look like a human being. I think that the secondary thing is to be polite. Know that everyone is rushing around everywhere, and if they say like just 1 sec, or like you can't find the person that you need to greet, or if you ask one person and they ask another person and they ask another person, just be patient, because everyone is running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and being patient and respectful is definitely like a better way to go about it. Definitely not to the point where they forget that you're in the booth waiting. So, you want to make sure that you get what you're there for, and that's to get that introduction. So don't be too polite where it's like you just become a fixture of the booth. But you definitely want to make sure that you give someone the patience that you'd want them to give you if you were working on the con floor, because it's busy.
I mean, and at the same time, like, be respectful of their time too. Like, if you're meeting someone, don't like take up a half an hour of their time. Like, get a gauge of like what they're doing. Are they running around? Because they're probably not going to have enough, like a lot of time. Do you have a set appointment? Then okay, then you probably have like a 30-minute or a 45-minute or 1 hour appointment with them. Then you have time to talk. But if you're like trying to make like a quick introduction with somebody and you didn't have a appointment ahead of time, definitely, if their booth looks busy, then you don't want to be absorbing too much of their time.
Yeah. You're not the most important person in the world. And if you are, find a way to condense that into a few sentences so that they know that at the beginning of the introduction, so you don't have to take up an hour doing this.
I mean, if you're the most important
yeah.
person, then they already know who you are when you walk up to their booth. Honestly.
Hopefully.
Well, I'm gonna offer kind of a different perspective on this.
Yeah, you've had
Excellent.
great perspectives. Please.
There isn't. I found that there's not necessarily at a certain point. There's not necessarily a reason. In fact, there's a lot of benefits to not approaching them at all and having somebody go in your.
Oh, sure.
So this is where I would advocate if you're, and this isn't for everybody, but we're talking on a business level. There is a time, hopefully for all streamers, when they get to a point where they might start thinking about management. And management can be really, really a really fantastic tool at conventions for getting you from appointments to appointments, setting up your appointments, speaking on your behalf, getting those things done. Because here's the thing is that, and I've done it too, where I've walked up and tried to talk to, developers and convention people that I want to talk to. And it's worked, 60, 80% of the time, whatever. But the moment that I asked one of my community managers to go up and speak to them for me, it gives you an air of importance that intrigues developers more than if you were to approach yourself. So I know this sounds maybe a little, whatever, but it works. It works very well. So like Lucky Misfits in the chat, if I wanted to talk to somebody at Ubisoft or whatever, and I haven't made an appointment, I might send Lucky Misfit over to their booth to try to see if there's a time that they can schedule. She says, I'm his community manager, blah, 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 blah. If you need the stats, I can give you the stats, but he does want to come by your booth at some point and check out your game. 100% of the time it's worked, like almost every time. When you're not approaching yourself, especially now when there's such an influx of new partners, and it's a lot easier to get partnership, you can be in a line of partners waiting to use a game, and just by simply using somebody else as your proxy gives you credibility that maybe they don't seem to have, and it gives you opportunities and benefits that they won't get.
What would you want to equip this person with if you were to say, I don't have a community manager, I don't have someone that I put in that role, and I'm not at the point yet where I have someone managing my interests for me. But if you wanted to give this perception, because perception is everything, I 100% agree with you that you can be someone who gets 100 viewers, but if you act like you're worthy of someone's attention, then you are 100%.
And that's the thing is I hear a lot of this, I'm going to set up this thing early, months in advance, and I'm going to, approach this developer and everything. See, the way I try to think is what can I do to have these people approach me? I want them to want me. I want them to come to me. My content, I believe in my content enough where I have things to offer them, not the other way around, right? And so meeting on kind of a halfway grounds, by like I said, by sending a proxy, or maybe even it might sound a little crazy too, but maybe even shutting a little bit, playing hard to get does absolutely work too. What I would equip those people with,
if your Ellohime might work.
Again, I'm saying I'm not chasing
the rabbit.
I'm not saying this is advice for every growing streamer.
Yes,
it is. But what I'm saying is that these were strategies that I adopted very early that worked out really well for me, that was able to push me ahead. If you don't have a community manager, or at least a main, even if you're only broadcasting to 50 people, I would start working on that person right now. I would be finding that person.
So what do you equip them with? You said I've got some numbers, this is blah blah.
If they just are, because sometimes you'll walk up and they'll walk up and they'll be like, all right, how many people does he have following on Twitter? How many people does he have this? How many people does he have that? That does happen. So you want your social media numbers, you want your viewership numbers, you want any stats that you can pull up pretty much easily. And with the help of your phone, they're usually there pretty easily. You can put them on your phone in an Excel document or anything like that, just to pull them up and have them look over them. If they want your channel page, or if they want even sometimes references, if they want to talk to other people that they've worked with, that have worked with you, maybe other streamers, for instance, if I know that Bikeman has worked with Ubisoft in this, and I really want to get in with Ubisoft, and Ubisoft is, we're kind of in in contact, I might go, oh, my buddy Bikeman you know, he worked with you guys with this and blah blah blah. Yeah, we're
Dropping
good
the
friends. You
name.
know, that kind of drop the name, man. Like honestly, like this is a business and there's a very big business side to
As
it.
long
You're
as you
absolutely
know
right.
that person's not going to give you a bad review. Like, don't
Oh,
be like,
sure,
oh,
sure.
Lyric.
As long as you
Yeah,
actually
my
know
buddy
that person.
Lyric that I totally
Yeah,
know.
yeah, and obviously don't throw out people there that you like don't know and you're not close
Yeah, no, it
with.
has
Like,
to actually be functional. Yeah.
yeah, I guess I should have mentioned that, but like I
Yeah,
guess
don't lie about things that are easily checked.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
that is going to
But
get you in
another
so
thing I
much
think you'd want to equip
trouble.
them with is your price. They would have to know, in my opinion, I think they would have to know what the value would be in different scenarios if if they're approaching a potential sponsor or you know, sponsored content either for a product or for a game. It doesn't matter. I think they would have to be equipped with the you would at least have to have had several conversations about that, and they would have to know how those numbers translate into how your metrics translate into a dollar value for different scales. And that's something that I think a quick plug to an earlier show that we did with Omid. Was that the first show of this season?
I believe so.
I think so. It was about sponsorship stuff, and there's a lot of good details, a lot of good information in there about how to find your pricing structure and stuff.
Mhm.
well,
So
speaking
putting
of
that in the
Omid,
hands.
yeah, like speaking of Omid is you know, he's the guy that runs my management group, and
Yeah.
and you know, I was very lucky to get with him very early, and in the early, like the first year going to conventions, that's what Omid did. I mean, he
Right.
walked around the convention with me and was like, hey, I've got my client here, you know, he really wants to check out your game, blah 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 blah. All right, let him right on in. Okay, you know, like 90% of the time they're not going to ask for your stats if you have a proxy. They're just usually going to let you in because it's you seem like a big deal, so therefore you
It speaks
are
to
a big
another
deal.
level of business when
Correct.
you
Yeah.
have not just yourself, but these peripheral people that are working with you, and they have to present themselves in a way that is professional as well,
Sure.
like making sure that you're not sending your hungover friend as your community manager.
Yes.
Because that's not going to be good for you either.
No,
Yeah.
think about this. Think about this. There, it's not even just for meeting other people, but maybe even just simply getting around the convention floor. Because at a certain point, it's going to be hard to get around a convention floor. You're going to watch, especially if you're outside the Twitch booth. People start to recognize you. They start coming up to you. They start wanting to have conversations with you and getting to know you. And that is awesome. That is like one of the number one reasons I go to conventions is to meet viewers and stuff. But sometimes you're on a schedule. So if you have a community manager with you that knows your schedule, is there with you, helping you, they can go, hey, I don't want to break this up, but hey, Ellohime, you've got a thing at 3:00. It's 2:30.
Yes.
We got to go.
Mhm.
And what that does is it takes the pressure off of your shoulders. It lets the people know that you're being corralled, you know, and that this isn't, you don't have to go, hey, sorry, I'm too busy for you. See you later, chumps. You know, that kind of thing. Because that's the way that people can feel sometimes, right? When
Yeah.
That's very true.
Because sometimes they show up just to see you.
Yeah,
And when they
especially
don't
if
get
it's your
that time,
viewers. Yeah.
Yes.
when they
right.
don't get that time, they feel neglected. So you don't want them to feel that way. Again, there's other uses to having a community manager, somebody there, a mod,
Absolutely.
to kind
They
of
do the
corral you
arm
and keep
bar.
you. Yeah,
They're like, hey, wait. Just
You know,
one
I'm coming
second.
through.
if somebody comes in to give me a hug and my manager's sorry, don't get close. You know, not that
sorry.
but I can be like, no, it's
Oh,
cool.
no.
Let him come in. Oh, then I look like a
Oh,
hero,
he's so
right?
cool. Yeah.
I look like a hero. You know, like I'm like,
No, no,
Nice
no.
guy.
It's okay. I got
One
time
man
for
in this
you.
scenario.
Come here.
I'm just saying this is another
That's
instance
true.
where having a proxy, having a person who is there with you, taking care of you, you know, chauffeuring you around, you know, going and talking on your behalf. There's a lot of benefits to that. Now,
Yeah.
can you find somebody who's really good at that and dedicated to do that and all that stuff? It's like, you know, you were saying another thing, you know, like how do you equip them? I also give them t-shirts with my brand on it, you know, an Ellohime t-shirt, but it's exclusive to them. It has their mod name on the back. You know, like, so whenever they're going and talking in my proxy, they're not just there in jeans and a t-shirt, whatever. They're there in my t-shirt, my brand. You know,
I am writing that down.
they have their,
Yeah, that's a
they
good
have
idea.
their badges on, they look official. So when they walk up, especially if you get somebody, somebody who's really integrated. I was lucky to have Lucky Misfit, who was also an admin for a long time with Twitch. He worked with Twitch, so then they get the official, like, exhibitor badges or, Twitch badges. And then when they're going and talking to you, it just gives you that much more credibility. So it's about building that credibility, quickly, visually, being able to do that subconsciously. There's a lot of other strategies than just I'm walking up myself to go talk to this person because I want something from them or I want to play their game. So I was just thinking outside the box a little bit.
That's great. That's absolutely stuff that is even good advice for like us here. So thank you.
It's definitely something that I never thought of. So
yeah, I would even say though, like for having someone else with you at the convention, like if you have a community manager, like this is also a little bit of a safety thing. Because when you're going to meet in person people that you've never met before, it can be nice to have someone there that if someone gets too attached or if they follow you around the entire day, or if you're usually more for women than for men, if they're like flirting outrageously, trying to be a little touchy, like having a friend at a party that is hanging out with you, that you guys are like buddies at the party, having your community manager on the convention floor, just to be able to have someone who can pull you out of that situation if you need that. That can be super, super valuable as well, because it's obviously the rare case, but I think all of us have probably had the experience where someone's just gone too far and not having to like be the bad guy, as it were, especially in public where you're like, whoa, like you need to back the fuck off. Like having someone else be like, whoa, you need to back the fuck off.
That's absolutely
That can
valuable.
be very helpful.
My manager is bodyguard sized, so I really lucked out on that one. Like he's just around all the time. He's very kind and gentle, but he can be imposing with ease, and that can go. And so he plays multiple roles in that one.
And that's like
sometimes he
have to know
carries me when I'm
you.
too tired.
Yeah, they have to know you. They have to be able to read you, because for some people the line is different than for other people. Especially for like women, knowing where that line is in terms of like, I'm okay with being flirtatious, but at what point do I need, like, I'm making eyes at you because I need help? Like having someone who can read you like that, because like you're meeting new people, you're meeting a lot of new people, and especially if you're like a larger broadcaster, like anyone who has more people that are viewing them, like there's more of a chance you might get into a situation that's uncomfortable. And this is a con most of the time. This is like a vacation kind of, or as close to one as we get. So like,
I mean,
it's true.
Yeah, I mean, and to add to that, like on the other side, like be respectful of other people's personal space. Like not everyone likes hugs. Ask permission if you would like to hug them, or just go for the handshake. And then if they may ask you to hug you or something. Don't just assume that person is comfortable with you touching them in any way, because especially at conventions, a lot of people have like social anxiety and stuff, and they just like they don't feel comfortable with that. So especially if if they don't actually know you. I do want to get into our Q&A here as we're nearing the end of our show. So if you guys have any questions for us, we will pull them and try to answer all your questions. And then real quick before we get into that, let's talk about like post-convention. Like, how many of you guys like send emails, and when do you send these post-convention emails?
I don't send a whole ton of emails. Most of the time, the people I'm following up with more than anything are like other broadcasters that I want to make sure that like, hey, I met you. Like this is how I started playing D&D, honestly. I met Adam at PAX East 3 years ago, and he followed up, and then I invited him to my comic book show, and then he invited me to play D&D. So having that follow up with the actual people that you're like, I met you, I want to continue this relationship. And that can be super valuable, of course, with businesses as well, but it's almost better to follow up with them when you actually have something that you want to do together. Yeah. Like as opposed to like, hey, Ubisoft, I had a really fun time meeting you. In 4 months when you come out with that new game, I want to play it. Like, they're gonna forget. But broadcasters, like a lot of times you can do stuff all the time, right away. So like after, give it a couple days or a week because everyone's cooling down. Maybe people are sick. Pay attention to their Twitter feed. Like, oh God, I'm dying. Like maybe don't send the message then, you know? But yeah, no, I definitely think that
It's
like
true.
following up with people has given me some really rewarding relationships. Being the person that reaches out because everyone on the internet gets distracted and like is like it's really easy to lose touch with people. So if you want to have those relationships, you have to be the person that reaches out. And I've had trouble with this and I'm working on it myself.
You are one of the few
Um,
people who has control over how that is managed, right? Because you cannot dictate whether or not the other person is going to respond to you.
Yeah.
Whether or not they are going to reach out to you, whether or not they are going to, tweet at you on Twitter when you maybe forgot to follow them, and they're going to go, "Hey, it was great meeting you," and then in that moment you have the opportunity to go, "Oh, follow! Oh, that's right! I remember hanging out with you last night. That was fantastic." You don't necessarily have that control on their side. You have it on yours. So I would say definitely, take the opportunity as soon as you can, and that can depend on you. Like I have a very fickle and fragile memory, so I kind of need to do that stuff relatively quickly, fairly soon after.
Well, and also have something actionable because
Yeah.
like just saying like it was fun hanging out with you. That's like, okay, yeah, it was fun hanging out with you too. Like done. Like that's the end of your conversation.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, like we hung out, you mentioned how much you like Overwatch. I was thinking of playing Overwatch next week. Do you want to do a multi-stream? Boom.
Yeah.
Like you're doing something.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that. It could be offline. It could be like, I'm planning another one shot. Like my last one shot got these kind of numbers. Is this something that you think would be good for your brand?
Yeah.
So like, and that's even with other streamers. Like that's not even saying like businesses. Like let's say you reach out to an indie person. Indie developers are great because a lot of the times like I've been able to get builds of a game like way before release. And so that can be really fun to be able to be like, hey, I played the first like 30-minute demo of Battle Chef Brigade at PAX East. Would that be something that I could play on stream? Show my viewers like what I saw at the convention, do a little recap. Like, is that something that I could do? And yeah, they just sent me the build that they had at the convention and I played it on stream and that was great.
Also, oh, go ahead.
No, that's go like that's.
I was gonna say like a little add-on to when you're sending these emails and you have like a plan of action, include like a little tidbit of like your conversation or like where you met them, something that like can remind them of what your interaction was like. That helps so much.
That's a great idea.
Like, so honestly, like what I sometimes do is like if I interact with somebody and I know I'm gonna contact them, I'll either write on their business card or on my phone I'll be like, like something that we talked about or like, something to remember this conversation so that I can talk to them later about that. Like a fact about that person. So I'm like, I'm not just looking at this name and I don't remember anything about them, but I'm like,
yeah.
If you have nothing to tie it into, and especially I'm horrible with names, tying it into I mean, like our memories are they can be full of any number of things. And remembering experience usually does not directly involve the name. That's like something that's like almost like a hashtag that helps you categorize it. But all the other aspects of the memory, those are natural elements that help you draw back to the moment and actually remember the individual. It's very valuable.
Ellohime, I would love to hear your input on this because like you've had like very different experiences from the rest of us. Do you have any other inputs on like post-show stuff?
No, I mean, it's. How am I gonna say this without coming across as like a complete douchebag? It's a little bit different now. It's a little bit different now for me because my management handles all of that.
Yeah.
Like I said, at a certain point, management is going to be what you want because management is going to handle all these things for you. So post for me is keeping up with email chains that are being created on my behalf, which makes me sound like an asshole, but that's
I don't think that sounds like arrogance at all.
You just have a different experience than us.
I know. It just makes you feel like my management handles this, like
Ellohime,
trailer, like that kind of thing.
Be proud. Be proud of your accomplishments. Okay?
I am. I'm also wary of perception, so.
Sure.
So but like early on, what I would do was I would definitely give people space to get home and to get settled back in. You know, if I'm getting home and I want a couple days to recuperate, I'm sure they do. And it doesn't matter how excited I am. I need to realize that. So whenever I message them, I want to make sure that they've had time to get back home, relax, you know, maybe like a week later or something like that. Maybe even to the point where they, you know, probably forgotten about me, just a little, hey, I'm still here. Again, Twitter for me is the best way to keep up with people. I leave my DMs open. Like, that's how much I use Twitter. Twitter is just like my biggest business card, my biggest way to communicate with people, all that stuff. So if there's something particularly, time sensitive that's coming right after convention, like there's a game release or something like that, you know, I'll hit them up on Twitter and I'll just say, hey, you know, like you said earlier, you know, I met you, we had a quick conversation, I was just wondering if there's a review copy, because I'm very interested in streaming your game. And they'll respond or they won't, you know, and you'll just kind of leave it at that. But the post stuff, most of the post stuff is almost 100% just, for me anyways, getting back into the swing of things, getting back healthy. My focus is almost entirely on my broadcast at that point and not on my future opportunities. My future opportunities are there and I know they're there and I've got them and I've set them up and that's cool. I'll organize them later. Let me just focus on getting back into the swing of streaming. So,
and that's again another one of the benefits of management is allowing yourself to have that divided up.
Even without management, like you were saying, Ellohime, like these people that you've given your information to are going to come looking for your content. And if you're not live after a convention,
correct.
What are they're going to find like week old VODs. And so proving to them that everything that you've said about yourself, everything that you've presented about your reliability, like that all has to be present when you get back online.
Absolutely.
And not only that, but that's an excellent point. But to go even further with that, be sure, feel free to individually invite people to your stream. You know, you can go up there and go, hey, you know, blah, 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 blah. I stream on Twitch. Cool. Well, so does, you know, thousands of other people. But if you jump on your messages right before, especially before you stream their game, you know, like let's say I'm going to stream Watch Dogs 2, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm going to tag them in my live message just so they know that I'm streaming their game. And then if there's somebody particular that I had met at a convention or anything, I might shoot them a little thing like, hey man, thank you so much for making this game. I'm going to be streaming it this morning. If you want to check it out, here's the link. If not, have a great week, or you know, whatever. Sorry, I might have just broke up a little bit there.
Well, and that's specifically if you already have that, like you met them, let's like tag them in again. I don't think I would cold call people with that because that can be just like, okay, like I don't care, you know? But definitely if you had a conversation at a convention, if you've already expressed interest in a relationship and then you're like, yo, like we talked about my content, I'm going live with something that you've made. Now that's a really good way to do it. But make sure that you're not just like barging into someone's DMs and being like, I'm live right now on Twitch, because
no, that's a great point. It's about understanding the rapport that you built individually with people. And you know, a lot of this has to do with, you know, a lot of streamers I found get very successful because they really understand emotional intelligence. Like they understand that when they're talking with somebody, how to read them as being abrasive or accepting or understanding or, you know, hesitant, stuff like that. You know, just being there in the moment and understanding people, and then having a really clear understanding of the relationship you have with that person is so important for not overstepping your bounds and doing everything that, you know, you just said, you know, making things super uncomfortable by being overbearing. That's one thing I see more out of growing streamers than anything else is they want to get to know you. They want to spend time with you. They want you to view them on the same level, like as a friend, as a confidant, as all these things, but they try to do that too quickly. They're too forceful with it. You know, they're right there with their business card. They're not, you know, they're 100% agree with you. So what I would say is just chill, understand the situation, understand the kind of relationship you have again, and take it easy, take it slow. There's no reason to rush into things. And if you feel like you're being overbearing, then maybe you are. you know,
Yeah.
and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with stepping back. You know, there's nothing wrong with taking a step back.
Well, this
And
isn't
that's
your
like
only
impossible to
convention, right?
teach too. Yeah.
Like you're going to go to the next one and they might be at the next one too, and then the year after that, and if they're staying in the business then and you're going to stay in the business, then you guys are going to meet up at some point. So it's not like the only opportunity you have is this moment, and you need to, even if that were true, you want to manage that overbearance regardless, because you don't want to ruin that potential moment by going overboard. So one way or another, you definitely want to reel that in and try and manage the relationship in the longer term, instead of just like the first memory that you plant is this like,
Yeah.
hey, let me give you 10 business cards in case you want to hand that out to other friends. It's like, well, maybe not.
I feel like
Yeah.
this is also really good like dating advice too. So if you guys
Yeah.
like want to take this that, like
Wait, you guys
cross
don't
it
hand
out a
out your
little
business
bit.
cards on dates?
I do 100% of
I
the time.
certainly do.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not
Um,
getting laid unless I'm throwing out that I'm a streamer. So, I mean, I have to get my business card.
I'm famous on the internet,
Yeah.
so
I'm a celebrity. I don't know if you know this. By the way, there's another point too. I'm gonna call him out by
Okay.
name just because I love him to death, and it just kind of goes in. I know Lowco's wanting to get to questions, but also just the last point on that. Not every relationship you're gonna build is going to happen like right away. Sometimes it takes years. Like the first time I met Brian Hicks, I love him to death now, but the first time I met him, the guy almost pretended like I wasn't even in the room. Like it just like I thought the guy hated me. I didn't understand it. Brian Hicks was the guy that used to work on DayZ with Dean Hall. It was like my very first convention. I was an up and comer, and this guy, he didn't mean to. It's just the way that he is. He's military. He's very quiet. And I just got in my own head about this relationship. I was really bothered that this guy like it wasn't friendly with me and stuff.
Mhm.
And it was funny because, you know, maybe like a year later, we ran into each other at another convention. He said hi. He was very amiable. And like a year after that, you know, by year 3, we had talked several times on Twitter, and, you know, things were popping up, you know, on Twitter, and like he'll send me a message and we'll laugh together and we'll do some shit here and there, you know, and it's like weird because the relationship I thought I was in when it first started, because of my own insecurities and my own shit, was a relationship that evolved into something totally different over time. So even if you don't feel like you're getting across to somebody right away, don't feel disheartened by that. Some people are just different than others, and some people take a while to open up to you. And with Brian Hicks especially, like we're really good friends now, and I love the guy to death. But yeah, I probably didn't think the guy liked me for probably like 2 years. So
And this like happens even with
yeah.
people that you do have a good rapport with, like sometimes in person, it can be totally different because there's that social
Absolutely.
anxiety thing. And like even with Adam, who is like my absolute closest friend, at conventions, he is like way more standoffish initially, like even
Just a
with me,
different beast.
because it's a different situation. So even if it's someone that you do know and you have a really good rapport with online, it may be different. So just like take it easy.
And there are tons of reasons to be out of sorts at a convention too, right? You've got the schedule, like you said, social anxiety. You probably got trash sleep the night before. You may have had too many drinks. You may have not had enough food because you had a meeting in the morning. You know, there are any number of reasons
all
why
of the
somebody's
above.
and all that can stack up together.
So give people a little bit of a break if they're not quite themselves.
Just meet up with them the next day or the next year. We're going to be in this for the long haul. Prepare for that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be surprised what people can remember too.
Questions. We should do questions.
Yeah. So we do have a bunch of questions for you guys. So first question is, what is the best way to contact streamers to discuss partnerships/sponsorships?
Go to their Twitter. They should have a business email on their Twitter, and you should email that business email.
So is this from the perspective of a game developer or a streamer to another streamer?
I'm not sure.
Because I feel like if it's streamer to another streamer, like Twitter DMs is like fine. Sometimes even on Discord.
Well, that's specifically about partnerships and sponsorships.
Yeah, so it seems like that's a business thing. I would say, business email. I have mine in my Twitter bio. I'm sure everyone else does.
Put that in your Twitter bio. Actually, do that. Make sure that you have that there.
I rarely, if ever, get like spam emails from my Twitter bio that aren't caught by my spam filter. So there's no reason not to have it there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that's like the best way by far to contact streamers.
Absolutely.
How would you recommend balancing your professional/business side with your stream persona and being seen as your on-screen self, which is a different mindset?
This is an interesting one.
I think that individually is a question that can vary
yeah.
person to person, because here's the thing is that some people don't have another personality.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm who I am on my broadcast and out. Now I'm obviously a more entertaining me. You know, I'm a louder, you know, trying to
Boisterous.
be fun, you know? Yeah, more boisterous me. But it's still mean. Like I'm not a character, whereas, you know, Dr. Disrespect may be a character, right?
Mm-hmm.
He is not the same as when he's Guy, you know, the person. So it's an interesting question. I think it has a lot of different applications for a lot of different people. So it's sort of hard to answer it, but personally, I mean, I'm me 100% of the time. I am too lazy and too tired to try to be anybody else or to put on a different kind of persona. As much as I love professional wrestling and I would have a lot of fun with that, maybe for a week or two, it would probably get tiring for me. So, what I do is I try to mend or to meld both of those. My brand is me, right? Like when I get down to the product that I'm selling, my broadcast essentially is me. I can't do my broadcast without me. You know, if I could, I've had Cora stream on my channel before, you know, but there's a certain amount of people that just won't show up because it's not you. So what I would say is to understand, again, emotional intelligence, understand to be how about this? When you go to a convention, don't go. Sometimes it's best not to go in there trying to know the best, the biggest, and the best, and the whatever. Just get to know people. Just get to know everyone. Just say hi, hello. The person you're talking to today may in 3 years be the biggest deal on Twitch. You have no idea. So get to know everybody. Be kind. Be considerate to them. Understand that they're busy as well, and just be organic. I use this word over and over again. Organic. Be real
For good reason.
Yeah, and if you're just real with people, if you're just talking with people, things organically come out. Like I start talking to some guy in a hotel lobby, you know, all of a sudden I find out he's from Ubisoft, you know,
Yeah, turns out
he's working. Yeah, it just turns out.
if you treat people like people, you develop a relationship, and then if whatever that flows from that flows from that.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I
and
definitely
it only goes to boost or bolster your brand too, because your brand again for a lot of people is you
And your ability to communicate in person. The more you do that, the better you get. It's like anything else. It's, you know, practice makes perfect. Practice makes better. Doing that more in person makes it allows you to do that on a greater scale and much more personably and much more effectively in the future.
I also think that in terms of emotional intelligence, like read the situation, read the room. Like if you're going to a professional business dinner, you're gonna want to be a different person than if you're going to a banger, and you're all getting drunk as fuck. You know, like there's a different way to engage for those different situations. So even if you're not actually like a persona streamer, like you're not General Mittens, you're not Benny, like the puppet guy, there are people who are persona streamers, and there's a time to be that persona streamer. There's also, even if you're just being yourself, there's a time to be the Ellohime that goes and gets really drunk till 3 a.m. with these people at the party, and there's a time to be the Ellohime that is selling himself to a business person, and that is like, those aren't necessarily like personas, but you behave differently in different situations, and reading well which situations call for which part of you to come to the forefront
and what
is
you need
very
for
important.
that too.
Yeah,
because I know for me, like I need to withdraw sometimes, and it doesn't mean that I don't want to have conversations with anybody. It doesn't just retreat to my room. But in person, I tend to be quieter, especially in larger groups. I speak up when I feel like I have something really important to say. I don't. I'm usually it's closed off, and it's a very different personality that you experience. It's the same me in the background, but the expression of that can be quite different. So I think part of that would also be knowing yourself and what you need, what makes you comfortable, uncomfortable, and where to push those boundaries too. Because you can expand some of that. Like I'm a lot better about that now, which I don't think one is superior to the other, but I want to be more outgoing in person. And so I tried and I failed, and I tried again and I failed again. And then I tried it eventually. Now I'm better at it. That can make a difference.
It's no different, chat. It's no different than if you were to, like, for guys, if you ever gone to eat dinner at a girlfriend's house, right? You know, like, you're still you, but you're a different you. You're your best you, right? You're trying to
impress the parents.
Yeah.
Or, you know, yeah. So it's not like you're a different person. It's not your persona. It's just you're adapting to the situation and the flexibility of the context, right?
It's the different hats for the different situations.
And I think this also comes to terms with, like, you're going to be different when you're approaching a streamer that you're a fan of, that you want to say hi, than when you're approaching another viewer that you've engaged with in a community, than you would be if you're approaching someone whose game you want to play. Like, I am going to be able to give different amounts of myself and my time to different people, depending on, like, if I have to go somewhere, I, like, be aware of the fact that, like, if you're going up to a streamer and they have multiple panels they're going to be at, like, they might not be able to give you as much time as you might want, and just be, like, cognizant of that fact that these are, like, they're working, you know, and it's not a slight on you. That being said, the same goes for, like, if I, a streamer, go up to someone who's running a booth, a game developer, like, I have to be cognizant that they probably have a lot of meetings and they might not have time for me at this convention, but then I just need to prepare next time and make sure that I reach out and say, hey, we didn't get to meet up at PAX East. I'm going to be at PAX West. Like, let's make a plan. And so, like, that's definitely the case where, like, you want to get a read on what the relationship you have is with this person and not take it too seriously, because, like, you are not, and, like, this is about me, this is about everyone, like, you are not the most important person in that other person's life. They are. So, like, don't take it seriously when, like, someone has something else that they've already planned or that they're doing. Like, it's not all about you. It's not, like, a slight on you. Like, maybe they're just busy. So, like, try not to make it internally, because I know a lot of people might be like, I got to see them one time and they had to run off to do something and it felt really bad and it felt like I was being personally slighted, but, like, it's not all about you.
I think in that scenario, it can play out really well to treat it sort of like Disneyland, where it's like that ride's closed, and instead you're like, well, what's the next one? You know, and then you go scurry off to find, you know, like a snow. I don't know what you do at Disneyland. I haven't been.
A churro.
Sure.
Or one of those turkey legs.
Oh, now you're speaking my language. See, find the next turkey leg.
Yeah.
So to speak.
So
because in that moment, it might not work out.
Yeah, I mean, so just to, like, a continuation, this is, like, another question that was asked, and it ties in perfectly to what we're talking about right now.
Just reading that.
Yeah, walking up to streamers seems very scary at conventions because you don't want to be disrespectful. As a viewer, are conventions worth going to connect with communities, or are they just for business purposes?
Oh, 100% they're worth it as a viewer. Like,
I completely agree.
Yeah, I go as a viewer, like, a lot of times. Like, I'm going...
Well, a lot of streamers have, like, meetups. Like, look for meet and greets, meetups, stuff like that. Like, if you're looking for a certain streamer, ask them, like, hey, are you going to do something where there's a set time that we can meet you? Because a lot of streamers will do that. And a lot of streamers, if you have
and then schedule it in,
you should
in your
do that.
calendar.
And panels are great. Panels are a great way to meet with streamers. Like, I'm going to be on a few panels at PAX East. I know a bunch of other people that are going to be. If you go to their panels, and then, like, a lot of times people stick around after, and you'll be able to meet them if they don't have a meet and greet or a specific, like, community meetup happening. Like, that's another good way.
Yeah. And also, like, you know, if you're walking up to a streamer that's, like, passing by, that just goes back to thinking about their body language. Like, do they look like they're in a rush and they're trying to be somewhere? Let them go. If they're just kind of hanging
down,
around,
shoulders
like,
forward,
right? Do they have, like, kind of, like,
over their body?
Are they, like, lingering kind of by the Twitch booth, maybe just, like, talking with some people? You know, like, then that could be an opportunity for you to go and say hi. So that's
if there's, like,
read their
three
body
people
language.
in a group and all of them have their backs so that, like, no one can butt in, they probably don't want to talk to anyone else. Like,
maybe it's likely.
It's just, like, you have to be cognizant of, like, some people can't read body language.
Yeah.
Some people don't know those social cues. And just to be like, yo, like, if someone is, like, pointed so that they're not, like, open and, like, open to the room or the
Room.
space, like in terms of body language, chances are they're less likely to be receptive if you just come up to them. Like there's like some
Yeah.
people just can't read body language. There's probably stuff that you can look up online if you're one of those people that isn't good at reading body language. Usually it's very easy to see when someone's like closed off and awkward and they have their arms crossed over their chest, or they're like turning toward like one of the people they're talking to and like cutting off the rest of the room. Like there's ways to tell when someone's receptive and open to being like talked to, like they're standing widely and they have their arms out, or when they're like more closed off, and then you might be like, okay, maybe they're not having a good morning, maybe I'll try another time, especially if you're someone who is very impressionable and you know that if you have a bad experience you might take it more seriously. Like, know yourself, try and get a read on that body language, and just like be like, okay, like I'm gonna take a gauge of the situation. If it looks like they're like happy and smiling and open, like go for it. If they're very seriously in a conversation with someone else, like maybe it's not the time, but you can always
On the viewer side for this, right in the middle of this question is, as a viewer, are conventions worth going to connect with communities, or are they just for business purposes? I want to say too that most of us have like a favorite, streamer. Like on the viewer side, we have like that one person that we'd love to go and meet up with and talk. We hang out on their channels the most. We know a lot of the people in there. But I would definitely advise you to not put all your eggs in one basket, because for any number of reasons, the schedule might shift, or the person might end up with a meeting, or they might end up being ill and they don't want to get other people sick, so they're going to stay back in their hotel room, and so on and so forth. Don't allow your convention to be ruined because you only want to see that one person. There are any number of reasons why that might not match up. Try and branch out a little bit. Just see what else you can do, ahead of time. Go like, okay, there are 5 streamers that I might, want to see hang out at there if they're going to have a dinner. Like, that's something that I like to do. Go and eat some food with a bunch of people from the community. So try and see what each one of them is doing and whether or not that lines up with a schedule for you, and even if it conflicts with the schedule, put it in your calendar. Because if one person goes like, hey, I can't now, then you've got another one right there.
Yeah,
and
it'd be
going along
about it.
Going along with that, like there are community things that have nothing to do with the streamer. Like I know some communities that they spend the whole convention, like all of them together, and they hang out the whole time. And like when you're on Twitch, when you're in chat, you've created relationships with people who aren't just that one streamer. And going to conventions to meet those people can also be super worth it.
Yeah, big game changer on that one too. And that's another thing that I've seen happen several times when people end up getting into streaming further on down the road, is they've made a connection in person with other community members. And then when they, a year after they've been streaming, they get shouted out by that streamer. And the other people are like, oh, you stream too? Oh, and we had such a good connection. We've had such a great relationship. I'm going to go watch it. It can also be a community building for your own broadcast further on down the road. Like, everything here can be intertwined.
Well, like, I mean, that's how we got this show together. Like, that's why I'm on this show. I met a lot of you guys at conventions, and we started talking, and we became friends, and we open each other's streams, and then you're like, hey, be on the show. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, it's the evolution of things. I mean, I don't think I've streamed with any of you individually.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever, like, but I know you guys, and yeah, so fuck yeah, I want to be on the show, that kind of thing.
Well, and
there's a couple other things I just wanted to real quick. First of all, just because somebody is a Twitch broadcaster doesn't mean that they're good socially. I just want to throw that out there too. Like, a lot of broadcasters are totally comfortable looking into a lens, but if you get in front of them with eye contact, they'll turn away from you.
Well, we have control on this side of the camera, and we don't necessarily feel like that when we're in with a bunch of other people and feel totally equal, and that could be very anxiety driven.
And plus, we're gamers, man. Like, we're not, like, I love the gaming community, but I know this culture just as well as anybody else, and I know that we're not always the most socially apt, people out there, super genuine, but maybe not, and people, not everybody jumps into streaming to be a famous person and be super successful. I certainly fucking didn't. Like, I just jumped in because I wanted to play video games, and it's great that I'm social outside of this, and that's good for me. But there's other people, especially like when you get into the real pro scene, those guys who are like real pros, when it gets down to it, they're very serious, they're analytical, they don't understand conversations,
Yeah.
So there can be this misunderstanding that sometimes when you go up to say hi to your favorite streamer, that if he doesn't go, oh, hey, oh, so-and-so, so good to meet you, oh, give me a hug, blah, they're like, wow, this guy was such a dick. He didn't do any of that for me. But you know what? It could be culturally different. There's a lot of people that, play that are from other countries where social interactions are completely different. It just depends. So if you go there, like Hunter said, don't go for like one person. And if you do, and you get shunned, or you feel like they didn't make time for you, this is, try to understand, like, it's not about you. There are so many connecting parts and cogs and wheels that are happening all at once, that it probably led you to not being able to talk to your favorite person, or if you did, maybe you had limited time with them, or maybe didn't get the right kind of interaction that you wanted. And also, last thing, when we're talking about context and viewer to streamer and stuff, body language is great and everything, but look at where you're at too. Are you in front of the Twitch booth? Twitch booth is like free game. Like, as far as I'm concerned, if you're gonna as a streamer go walk up to the Twitch booth, you're gonna be assaulted by people, right? People, that. So if you're around the Twitch booth, feel free, go say hi to them, do it. That's the time. Now, are they at a dinner where they're having, whatever, a private dinner with a couple of people or whatever, and you walk up during the dinner, again, the location is important too. So that was my
absolutely last yes, that is a great addition to the like try and learn body language. Also, like, just what was the word you used, like emotional, like
intelligence.
It's so important. Just like, and it's not something you can really teach. Like, you just have to learn how to gauge it for yourself. So yeah, that can be really challenging. But also, going back to one of the things that Ellohime was saying about the fact that, like, you have to also take it into hand that not everyone's going to be your best friend. With these 4 people, like, I watch Hunter stream a little bit. Like, I watch Lowco stream a little bit. I rarely, if ever, talk to them privately. I rarely, if ever, talk to them, like, outside of, like, when I have a minute to, like, go into their streams. We have a relationship both of us enjoy, that's fairly shallow. Most of the time we just, like, see each other at conventions, express well wishes, and then, like, move on.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Yeah. Like, don't expect every time you meet someone for your relationship to be, like, super close and your best friends
immediately, super bonding.
Yeah, just, like, sometimes having just a, like, I want you to do well, and I care about you, and that's it. Like, and once a year we'll meet up again, and I'll be like, how are you? That's great. I hope it continues to be that way. I'll see you later. And that's
honestly,
okay.
Some of those fist bumps can legitimately, I know it sounds like I'm over exaggerating, I'm not. Some of those fist bumps at the right time can help carry me through the rest of the year. It doesn't have to be I don't have to have the most intimate relationship with somebody to actually get a lot out of it. And a lot of that, just, I think, configuring your expectations and taking what you can get and using that to the best of your ability.
Yeah.
It's just a mutual respect. I think everybody understands how busy this job can be. Yeah. Especially us, because it looks easy from the outside. You're like, oh, you're just playing video games. We understand what it takes, right? And so because we understand what it takes, we understand what other people are going through. So, these relationships are much more casual sometimes and friendly than intense and like we're going to spend every moment together.
Yeah.
Like, I feel strongly that a lot of people that I've met from Twitch and in the industry, if they lived down the street from me, I would hang out with them, every weekend, like in person, we would become very good friends. But like they said, it's the nature of what we do. We're busy. We understand that. And keeping that healthy mindset that, not everything is about you. And again, go back to the Brian Hicks story, don't think that just because they're not talking to you and they're doing their own thing, that somehow they, don't like you or don't care about you or anything like that. So. I digress.
Yeah, I mean, those are some really great points, and it's not something that's easy to like. When you think of convention tips, like it's not like the first thing that comes to mind is the whole body language, like relationship discussion of these types of things. But you guys made some very good points. I'll bring it around if you guys have any last minute or closing like tips that you want to throw out there that you didn't get to touch on.
Something you've been holding on to the whole time.
I just want to say thank you to Joe. Joe, if you're still watching, I love you. I didn't mention you during this, but I should have. I'm just saying, I love you, man. Joe is my account manager, and at conventions, he's a beast. In fact, I needed. I made the mistake of wearing a shirt when I was doing like a gig, a South Park gig. I was wearing a shirt for another company, and I didn't really realize it. I didn't have a change. And Joe is there, and he's like, I got it. I got this. I'll go find you a shirt. And he just like took off. I had like 5 minutes. He came back. He came back with this most beautiful like galaxy shirt. And I put that shit on. This has nothing to do with anybody. I'm just throwing some love out to Joe. Love you, Joe. Just saying, love you.
That's wonderful. I would say that know what you want going into it. Because if you're going to a convention, you're going for a reason. Cementing for you what it is that you want from it is the best way to get that.
Yes.
If you don't think about why you're going, then you might be left with a like feeling of I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't see who I wanted to see. I didn't make the relationships I wanted to make, because you don't like sit with yourself and figure out like what is it that I want from this? Why am I going? What do I expect? And then make the plan of like how am I going to get that? And that's what it comes down to for anything with streaming and everything. It's like, what do I want to get from this? Like, why am I doing this? And that's the only way that you're going to know what the path is from point A to point B. And that's the same with conventions. Like, if you go knowing I want to make connections with businesses, like then that's the easiest way to prioritize what you want to do. If you go knowing like I want to be able to spend time with my friends, that's the easiest way to prioritize what it is that you want to do. So knowing ahead of time what it is you're going for so that you can plan for everything that you want to do and prioritize the things that you want to do. Like if you're there to spend time with friends and you get like a business card from someone from Ubisoft and they're like, hey, come to dinner, but like you're really there because you want to make time for your friends, then maybe that's not the time, you know? And that's not to say no to big opportunities, because like you got to be ready when that door opens. But like also know what you're getting in it for, you know? Because maybe there's another time for that. If you're like, this is the only time that I'm going to be able to make this connection with Ubisoft, I'm doing it right now. But on the other hand, it's like, oh, like this dinner we've been planning for months. Like this is really important for me. So it's like you gotta make concessions where you need to, but the only way that you're gonna know what concessions to make are to know what's valuable to you. You know?
I think my biggest one is a practical one. It's not very deep. It's drink a lot of water. Just seriously drink a lot of water, and don't drink it out of the water fountains.
Thank you, Bluejay, for modeling us.
Yeah,
don't drink it out of the water fountains. People make out with those water fountains like crazy, and it's just a pie. It's just a cesspool. Bring your own water, and if they cut you off, if they make you throw it away, buy your own.
Whole Foods is owned by Amazon.
Is that 365? That's true. Good point.
Amazon also owns Twitch.
Hashtag ad.
Support Whole Foods and Amazon so that we get a paycheck.
For gamers.
Sorry, hashtag ad.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's been a lot of information to digest here. Also, if you guys need something more written, I did write a guide a couple months ago. That's on the StreamerSquare website.
And it is fantastic.
Yeah, so give that a read. It's very thorough. It's covered a lot of what we mentioned here, but there's been so much more that we spoke about today. So we're going to do some shout outs. Hopefully this overlay works. All right, there we go.
What's happening?
It's an old overlay. Let's just do some shout outs. Go ahead. I'm just going to fix them real quick.
Go
ahead.
Is it
Ellohime?
Is it me? You were
it's
like,
Mob
go
Lord.
ahead.
I'm Mob Lord.
I
want to be Mob Lord.
Tell us where we can find you on Twitch and Twitter.
This is my first. Okay, this is the first show flub I have done. Okay,
Hi, I'm
14
Momlord.
episodes.
I'm a professional streamer. I stream once a year.
I fixed it. I fixed it.
You can
Too
follow
late.
me at twitch.tv/Momlord. I have a small babby boy that I love. Yeah.
No, it's still messed up. Oh.
I'm Mucky Lispit. Hey everybody.
Now Hunter is Ello.
Ello, we're
Like,
easy to confuse.
No.
Those are so
Oh
sexy.
God.
Okay, sorry. Are we gonna do real
man.
shoutouts?
Yes.
Yeah, it's listed right. It's just our name tags are messed up.
Okay.
Bluejay, go ahead and give it to us.
Hi, I'm a Bluejay. I'm a full-time variety broadcaster here on Twitch.tv. You can find me at twitch.tv/Bluejay or on Twitter at Bluejay_712. You can also find me on Wednesday nights on twitch.tv/GeekSpaceTV playing a Stars Without Number role-playing game. You can find me on Thursdays on twitch.tv/Roll20 app playing a Burning Wheel role-playing game, and on Fridays on twitch.tv/DND playing, you guessed it, D&D. You can catch my awesome one-shot that I just did in the VODs from my channel. I GM'd for the very, very first time for an amazing cast, Matthew Mercer, Holly Conrad, Naja Otikor, and Adam Coble. It was amazing, and you're going to be real sad you missed it, so catch that VOD. And that's me. That's all of it.
Yes. Ello, what do you have for us? Where can we find you?
I'm going to make it real easy for you guys. If you want to get to know me further after today, you can go to @Ellohime Twitch and you can follow me on Twitter. And that will be the beginning of our relationship. And if you want to know when I go live, that's where I post it. You want to send me a DM? My DMs are open. You do whatever you want, but Twitter is where everything starts. So if you want to get to know me, you're more than welcome to follow Twitter or not, and maybe just run into me randomly. Future. But yeah, also about Twitter DMs being open, I know that we only had a couple of hours here. I know that we got a lot of information out there, but there's still so much information to be had and to get out there. So if you are a growing streamer and you need any advice or help, please be sensitive to my time. I may not be able to get back to you right away, but my DMs are open and you're more than welcome to shoot me a question and I will do my best to help you. So there's that.
Yeah, I think the same goes for any of us, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you have questions, again, like being sensitive to busyness, but like we'd all be happy to try and help.
DMs are open for me too. At TheHunterWild TV on Twitter. It's as always, it's been an honor to co-host the stream scene today. You can find me 6 days a week, typically starting 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific, all kinds of variety stuff at twitch.tv/TheHunterWild. And our illustrious queen of the stream scene, Lowco. Give it to us.
Well, thank you. You can find me at twitch.tv/Lowco, twitter.com/Lowco255. And check out the StreamerSquare social media as well. Follow us on Twitter, it's StreamerSquare, and on YouTube as well. It's the same everywhere. Check out the website. Check out that link of the convention tips if you guys want like something written. Also on our YouTube, we've done a convention tips episode with iCasper in the past as well. So definitely check that out. That was around TwitchCon time. So we'll do more of these with like new guests to get you guys different perspectives, because what we talked about then is definitely not even close to what we talked about this episode. So it's still a lot of good content out there for you guys. And thank you guys so much for being here. Bluejay, Ello, thank you guys for your time.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Absolutely. It's my absolute pleasure to be your first returning guest.
Really honored.
So yeah, thank you guys for watching. We will not be here next week. We are going to be, I'm going to be recovering from PAX. So we'll see you next time soon on the stream scene. Thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful week. And if you're going to PAX East, Bluejay and I are both going. So definitely make sure to find us. Say hi. We'd love to meet you guys, and we'll take your business cards. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys soon. Have a wonderful week.
Good afternoon.